everyone. A warm welcome to the third episode of Stitching Talk and Knitting Stories. We at the Mind Beyond believe that each one of us has a story to tell, a story that can give us a lot of learnings for our lives as well. And in this episode, we have Naganand Kolar, who will be sharing his journey of those insightful stories with us for us to build up on positivity and productivity in our own lives. Welcoming Mr. Naganand Kolar. Hello, Naganand. Welcome to the third episode.
Thank you very much, Roshni. I'm really honored to be on the show. I've had seen a couple of other episodes, and it's really interesting to be part of this. I'm glad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naganand. It's a pleasure for us too. So before we proceed into the conversation, let me introduce you. Naganand is a coach and founder at Unique Formative Experience Center and extremely passionate about working with people and helping them to become their best self. His field of expertise is in career transformation, life coaching, developmental coaching, and conscious parenting. He is a certified NLP practitioner, ICF coach, and is also working on building a tech-enabled platform aiming to provide e-guidance to students. That's interesting. On a personal level, Naganand is married to Saritha, an HR professional. He's a proud father who practices conscious parenting and guides other parents by sharing his experience and learning. So, Naganand, when I was reading out your bio, this kind of interested me. Career transformation and developmental coaching. So how do you do that? What's that exactly you do about it?
Career transformation has been a topic which I dearly love. One is I myself am an example for a career transformation. Basically, it is I have come across various professionals. After a few years of working, they would have come across what we call it as an midlife crisis sometimes. And also, as people evolve, there will be a lot of values which gets changes. You develop new values, and there are a lot of identity-related transformation which happens within. And in that, what happens is most of the times what happens is we think about, are we in the right career? Am I doing some justice to my skills and knowledge which is there? And here is where a lot of professionals face a challenge, because everyone will have certain commitments. It can be professional commitments, it can be family related commitments, commitments which would have, once you start working, you would have taken loans, and there is a burden of loan repayments and things like that, by which people would not find it comfortable to move to a different domain of a career which they might be very passionate about. And in that process, what happens is there is something which is missing in life. They would be finding that there is a part of each and every one of us which feels that we need to do a lot, but there are a lot of external factors which doesn't allow us to do that. And this transformation for me, it also is something which is very close to my heart, because I had some challenges in my personal life, wherein which I've come across people who have absolutely no say educational background and qualified credentials, but still are able to do a wonderful job, honing their skills, basically their innate skills. And this is where I was when I was in my crossroads of thinking, what should I do? And as you would know that, as you know from my LinkedIn profile as well, I had had a personal tragedy in my life, which
Yes.
eventually me ending up in prison for about 3 years. Although it was a very I have seen how the mind works here, how the mind plays tricks on us, and
Right.
wherein which I actually ended up in there on multiple reasons. One was not being able to pursue the kind of, or I was not interested in the field of engineering which I was studying, and I did start my business initially, but I was very young at that time, not knowing how to handle tricky situations, and ended up in a huge financial loss. And after that, uh, the parents, family members asked me to get into a job. I was doing well in the job, but I was not happy. And in that search of happiness, I used to jump between jobs quite often, an year and a half, and I would feel bored in that job, and I would look for something different. But since there was this pressure of being in a job and things like that, that still continued. And eventually it boiled down to a point where there were so many things which were happening in my personal life. I could not take that stress which was going on, and eventually I myself, and also along with my family, we tried committing suicide. And that was where where I understood. I mean, this is not then I understood. After all, living through those moments, that is where I understood that how depression, anxiety, stress can play such a role where you would lose your thinking capacity totally. And these things are not something which is uncommon. There are a lot of people who face mental health issues. Each deal in different way. Some getting to addictions, some getting into losing their jobs, and some just I think they might be resolute enough where they would just go into a shell and just be like a robot, just doing the same old things again and again. So my introspection happened while I was in prison as to what went right, what went wrong. And when I came back, my experience in prison for about 3 years changed a lot about changed a lot about the perspective of the world for me, as to how I used to think, how I used to look people. I felt everyone in prison are criminals, but that wasn't the
So,
case.
Nagarand, like, yes, I will come to this part because this is the learning lesson. This is the learning where, we can understand that life is not limited to anything. It's basically limitless, and we have to harness the energy, that limitless energy, to grow and develop ourselves. So, what happens to us cannot bind us to anything in particular. We can always
Very true.
change our circumstances. So that's the story that you are going to share with us. And probably, like, just to sum up what you have already said, probably it's the fear factor. Like, will I be able to do it? Will I be successful? Will people accept me? Probably these are the fear factors that work and inhibit us from making any kind of a transition, be it career, in a career, be it personal. Because we have understood from your life story that these are related.
Yeah.
Our professional and personal lives are related. One is
Very
not
true.
independent of the other. If we are suffering professionally, it has its impact on our personal lives. If we are suffering personally, it has its impact on professional lives. So yes, now we are going to hear that story which changed your life forever. What was that particular instance in that story? What we would like to know is what was that particular instance which changed your life forever, and the message indirectly that you want to give us out for that learning, so that we do not bind ourselves to the shortcomings. Rather, we do not see those as our shortcomings and we evolve from there.
True. Well said, Roshni. Actually, if I would look at one instance of this transformation. This was about understanding the importance of self-awareness. Number one. And number two is understanding that each person comes with a different experience. And also realizing the fact that my education did not teach me how to live my life. And this is where I thought, I should work with in the field of education and personal development for the matter of fact. And that is when I started to learn more about psychology, the human brain, and a lot of other stuff which actually intrigued me a lot. And when I came out, my whole purpose was to use my experience, my learnings, and use it as a learning for others as well. Use it as an example for others as well, and try to transform lives, try to transform the way how people look at life. And that is when I started working across with students and working with professionals. And while working with professionals, one of the major factors which I could notice was that people were some people were not happy with their jobs, happy with the career which they were in. And what really stopped them were the factors which I told you: the fear, the uncertainty, and also something which it's an unscattered territory for them. They haven't put their feet in those shores any time before, and all they knew was to do this job which they had in their hand, but they were really afraid to make that next step. So how I started working with these kind of people, where especially using my own learnings of from coming from an engineering background, getting into an counseling, coaching kind of work, and working with students. So I started helping them to take step by step. So what I actually tell people is, first is to find a mentor. Find a mentor in the desired field which you're looking at. Connect with people, network with people, go out, talk about it, get into groups, get a little bit more understanding about the industry. See, your experience will always be there. It will not go. Right. All you need to do is develop those skills which are required for the field which you are aspiring for. Exactly. And this is where actually the transformation happens. And once a person starts putting that effort, I tell them point blank that if you want to achieve something, if you want to change, if you want to transform your career, either by going to a different domain or by upskilling yourself in the current field of expertise itself, you'll have to sacrifice certain things. You'll have to sacrifice some weekends which you spend, with your family or with your friends, and certain night outs, and you will have to dedicate time in deep work. Deep work as in no distractions. I have advised certain people to turn off their mobile phones, get out of their Wi-Fi's, and just focus on what they want to do just for a couple of hours every week, every day on a weekend. Yes. First learn skills, and then go ahead and find a mentor and get to know the industry related information. And if possible, try to take up freelancing jobs related to that, or try to develop your own. If it is someone who is trying to, if in a software background, if someone is trying to move from one domain, from a domain to a different domain, they can take up projects which are available everywhere. Or they can, if it's a different, if it's something, I have had a person who had come to me and who was talking about, he was basically from an technology background. And he used to love painting, arts and other things from his childhood. And he had he had developed this hobby of setting up his house, decorating his house and things like that, and he found it very enjoyable. And that is what he wanted to do, become an interior designer, or but he had no credentials. Obviously, he can't go back to the drawing board, leave all his job and go into school again. But yes, he can start practicing. He can start practicing by just helping out a relative or a friend. Take out those photos, post it on social media, or share it with others. Use it as a hobby.
If I may interrupt you here, for this, we get a lot of vocational courses as well. So there's no harm in taking a vocational course just for the knowledge enhancement part. It's not for any kind of a certification or for anything. It's not for it's not that you have to prove anything to anybody. It's just for your own knowledge base that we can always our own knowledge base that we can always go and get those kind of get ourselves enrolled into those kind of courses.
Absolutely, you're very right. One is the skill level. I mean, that is, you need to develop those skills, learn those skills.
Right.
The second aspect is, how do you mitigate the when you're moving from one job to another job, right? There is always that risk of losing your package, whatever you used to get. How can you mitigate that? That is difficult. That is where most professionals find it difficult. So by doing some small projects like this, you mitigate those risks which are there. True. And everyone, nobody would look at your certificate and give you a project, right? It's absolutely based on your experience and something which you can show off. Right. And this is where doing some small projects like this while on a weekend or when you are free, absolutely vocational certificates is necessary if you are if you want to get those skills. But apart from that, you would also need certain projects to showcase your talent as well.
Right.
And when you got talent, people will recognize your work as well.
True. So yes, that's about transforming from one career to another, how people can actually do that, mitigating that gap, bridging that gap, the gap where it is about probably the salary, the money which is concerned, the financials. This is about one part which you found your niche in, but that has come out from a life experience which I understood, like after talking to you, after how much ever I've known you, and after reading your post on LinkedIn. So I would like you to share this with everyone, because this is a learning. How did you transform from there to whatever you are doing now? You were an engineering student, you didn't like that. Now you were a coach, advising people on how to get into this career transformation, because you have yourself undergone it. But there is a story behind the entire thing. So
yes,
where we talk about this limitations and the limitlessness of our mind.
Yeah. So for me, it was if I have to say it, it was for me, either you do it or you just evaporate. Either you go ahead and sail to the shore or drown in the water.
Right.
So that in that situation, when for me, I learned while being in prison, for me to come out of the prison, what I did is I learned law by myself. Reading law books. Some of my friends helped me to read the books, to get the books, and I used to ask them to get the books, and they used to come and give it to me. So for straight 10 months, I read law, especially criminal law and Indian Penal Code, totally, to be able to help my own self in my case. And this was something which was one part of it. And the second part of it is, after learning law, I applied for, I put in a petition for suspension of sentence, which was on me, the life sentence which was there. And I applied to the High Court to suspend that sentence. I put a petition for that, and I wanted to do it by myself, without an advocate, because my case was a very personal case, and I felt no one else can explain it better than me itself.
Correct.
So this is where that was my say and motivation to learn the legal aspects of criminal law and other things, and that is how I learned it. And after 10 months of reading, writing, and so on, I went ahead and spoke in front of I did my what we call it in the legal terms is defending myself regarding the prosecution case which is there, and I defended myself successfully in front of a divisional bench in the High Court of Karnataka, which was a senior bench of 2 judges which will be there. And this gave me confidence that, I never knew about ABCD of law before, and I could read it in the span of 10 months. If I can do it, a person like me who didn't study well in my college, didn't focus well in my college, but if I could focus and do it, anybody can.
Right.
And anybody can bring in that transformation in themselves, and anybody can learn anything new.
Correct.
Our human brain is such that if you put in your hard work, and if you put in those long yards which are required for you to get those results, anything is possible.
Correct.
As you always say, it's limitless.
Yes.
So this one particular confidence which I got from my own experience helped me to, and I share this story to my to my coaches as well, who find it difficult to go beyond one step. So I tell them the story. If I could do it, and you can very well do it. It's not that you cannot. It's not beyond our capabilities. Right. It's just that we need to put that effort there.
Understood. Yes. So beautiful. Like, yes, we all now know, like, if somebody can come out of that situation and turn life into his favor, everyone can do it practically. We just have to want that. We just have to have that kind of consciousness and love for ourselves, that we do things, we turn things in our favor. So this was a life learning from you. And I could see that you are also a parenting coach. So is it that you have picked up this learning and you're putting it into your parenting coaching, as well as you're putting it to yourself, being a father of a doting father of a son? So how you are doing it? What are those? How do you do it?
There are 2 aspects of it. Okay. One is my own experience being a child. Okay, that we all get to that, right?
Right.
Mummy papa aisa karna chahiye tha, aise dena chahiye tha. I mean, those are the things which is there. But I wouldn't blame my parents for that. Nobody can. Whatever, there is nothing right or wrong. What they would have seen or what they would have known, they would have. Each parent would like to give the best to their child.
Absolutely.
And there is no exception in that. There is no exception in that.
Correct.
A person who is a street vendor to a multi-million-dollar corporate owner, everyone would love to give their children the best life possible.
True.
And it's just that we are sometimes not aware as to what is the best methods to do that.
Right.
And my journey of parenting began in 2020, rather, when I married to Sarita, and where she came with a 4.5-year-old son, which was a blessing for me. And I always loved to love to be with kids, and generally I'm a person who love to be with younger people. uh, that's something which I always loved from my childhood. It's not now. And the pandemic gave me a lot of time to be with my child.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Being there at home and helping him to do his his school work, although he being just 5 year old, but still teaching a there is a saying, right? If you have if you have a brilliant idea and if you're able to explain it to a 5 year old, then you can explain it to anyone.
Anyone, yes.
So that saying is always stuck in me. So initially I found it a little difficult to help him to do his work and help him to with his homework and things like that, which is being online. Then I thought to myself that what am I doing not right? Where am I going wrong? So that is when I started reading certain books, and I also took my own personal life experiences. I reflected upon that, and the conscious parenting is something which is a very curious topic for me. I'm still learning. One is conscious is just being aware of the present situation. Just being aware while you're with your child. What are they doing? What are they seeking?
Right.
What are their just being present there, being available for them.
Absolutely.
And that is where I have understood the real pleasure of being a parent. It's for me, it's like a meditation.
Right. And parenting, what I believe, Naganand, it's a never-ending lesson probably, because we all make mistakes while parenting. Later on, we realize, no, it should have been done the other way around. Probably that was not the way. So it's something we continuously keep learning about, even when our children grow up, because the challenges are different at different stages. It's never constant. So with such a dynamic atmosphere, when you have a child at home to when he or she becomes an adult, that's really a big challenge, a huge challenge for the parents. What would be your tips? Some tips for parents, like which they can refer to easily, like a ready reckoner kind of?
There are few things which I would like to share to all the parents who are there. One is, for children, parents are their first role models.
Right.
So try becoming the role model like how you want your son or daughter to be.
Right.
And accept a mistake if you have done, consciously or unconsciously, with them. They will get that awareness that mistakes is something which everyone does.
Absolutely.
And it is best in the interest of everyone that you should accept. It's a grace in accepting the mistake.
Right.
Accept your mistakes, even though you might spend time with your children, talk to them, converse with them, ask them, how was your day? What was the learning about a particular day? When they do a mistake, ask them first. You do not give your suggestions. Ask them first how they felt about it. Let them express. Most of the time what happens is, as adults, we feel that we know everything and our child do not know anything. That's
right.
Only we have is experience. They do not have that experience. So what we should do is, as parent, what I practice is I ask more questions to him. When he does a mistake, I'll ask him, I would not say whether if it's a mistake or whether if it's not mistake. I will just ask him what was about that. If he shouts or if he is angry about something, ask why are you like that? What's happening around you? Then he would say, I'm angry. Okay, angry for what? Okay, so then he will complain about something, either his friends did something, or so I will ask him, so what you should do next time. Then the questions, kids are intelligent.
Right.
Every kid is intelligent.
Right.
It's just that as parents, we put our thoughts to them, and that becomes their guiding mantra. It shouldn't be.
Right.
So with my kid, all I do is give that space for him to be expressive as much as possible, because I learned a lesson which in my life where I didn't know how to express my feelings, my emotions, and that was one of my biggest failures
Drawback.
before my incident, where I was not able to express my deeper emotions to anyone, for that matter of fact. I believe freedom of expression is something which children should learn from the very young age, because that will help them in this world which is ever changing world. They have to be expressive about their emotions, and that's what builds the internal emotions which just keeps boiling down within and can burst out anytime.
Right.
So the freedom of expression is something which I give to my child, and I urge each and every parent to do that. The next thing is also about being truthful, as I mentioned, and the other aspect is, just give that space to your child where he feels connected with you.
Right.
Do not be like a parent who there are various modes of parenting. If it's a very broader topic to discuss.
Right.
In yesteryears, it was mostly being authoritative parenting, authoritarian, where there used to be an authority. If we sit also, sometimes you used to get scolding. If you stand also,
Right.
sometimes if you fall down on the road also, you used to get scolding.
Yeah, it's funny now, but back then it was really not very good on us. Like, we didn't like it the way it was, and probably it has left some kind of an impression in us wherein it affected our personality. With time, yes, we could reverse things, we could understand, we could reverse, but in the initial years, in the formative years, if the personality is affected because of these, yes, it becomes heavy on an individual. Sometimes we have to pay a heavier price for that.
Yeah, very true. And the other pressing thing which a lot of parents discuss with me is with terms of mobile addiction, for children, especially in this pandemic.
Yes.
A lot of students, a lot of young kids have become really addicted to mobile. And what even my child was no exception to that. He was also addicted initially. When in the early part of pandemic is where he was affected, and it took me almost 8 months to slowly phase out the mobile for him. Now he doesn't use mobile. He doesn't even ask for it. The only way which I could do that was bring in more of physical activity, and physical exhaustion when it happens, right? And children crave for that. They like to play. Even they don't like to sit in one place and watch mobile. It's just that we have given it to them as parents, because we might have to do our job, and we found it easier. That was a kind of an easier method for us. But initially, to make the kid a little bit more physical, you will have to work a little bit with them for the initial days. But once they develop that habit of playing some game, a physical game, I just brought in a small, basketball. This one, a small
the indoor.
The indoor.
Yeah.
I just initially I used to play with him. I used to play with him so that he also gets that the way how to play. See, kids lose interest when they are not able to succeed in it.
Right.
And when they lose it multiple times, they say, "This game is not interesting. Let us do something."
Exactly.
So one way of telling them is, until you practice, you will not get it. You have to give them example of when you used to play a mobile game. Did you win the first time? No, you didn't.
Right.
You lose, then eventually you win. And this also develops a lot of mental toughness for the child.
Yes.
When they grow up, by the time they grow up, they will find a lot of challenging situations where everything wouldn't go by their way.
Right.
And if you are able to imbibe these kind of lessons to children from the early age, they will know how to be resilient in future as well.
Correct. Thank you, Naganand. It was very interesting learning so many things, starting from a career transition to how to engage a child into positive behavior, and how to not blame them for anything, rather make them responsible. That's a way of wonderful parenting. There were so many takeaways from this talk. Thank you, Naganand. It was a pleasure hosting you in the Mind Beyond's event. Wish and hope to see you more in our events.
Thank you very much, Roshni. It was a pleasure for me to be a part of the Mind and Beyond, and wishing you all the success for your future shows. And I would definitely love to be part of any of the shows with you.
Thank you so much.